Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this late Wednesday night. And I know many of you guys were probably disappointed in the outcomes of most of the elections that took place yesterday during the midterms. However, the bright side is that we still have the House that we are going to take. The House Pelosi is going to be retired, and we possibly will still take the Senate, just not in the numbers that we thought we would. And of course, there are some races that went away to Democrats and no other people thought they would go. John Fetterman. 1. 2 people. Pennsylvania like to vote for people who are absolutely either brain damaged by a stroke or just ridden with dementia like Biden, or in this case, the representative who died 2 weeks ago. They elected a dead state representative. That's right. People in Pennsylvania. I have no idea what goes on with those people out there. And maybe it's the way that the votes are brought in and counted, and maybe they just pre-filled their ballots out for them. Who knows? I don't live in Pennsylvania. However, I do know that here in Florida, we didn't elect a dead representative like the people in Pennsylvania did. It's absolutely amazing. What happens on the same night? They voted for a guy that has literal brain damage, and a state representative who's dead. That's what they vote for in the state of Pennsylvania. If you're from Pennsylvania, please let me know what's going on there. So let's go and dive into what we have here. Coming to us from Fox News. And this is what we have: Pennsylvania State Representative re-elected despite being dead. We are proud to see the voters to continue to show their confidence in him and his commitment to the democratic values by re-elected to him. Pennsylvania House Democrats said that's not what today go to cemeteries to collect, potential voters. They also elect the dead as well in this case. Dude, wow. Pennsylvania State Representative who died last month was re-elected during the midterm elections. Report says Democrat Anthony Tony DeLuca died October 9 after a brief battle with lymphoma, a disease he twice previously beat when he was 85. The Pennsylvania House Democratic Caucus. Rue DeLuca was Pennsylvania's last longest-serving state representative, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He said, "While we're incredibly saddened by the loss of the Representative Tony DeLuca, we are proud to see that the voters continue to show confidence in him even though he's dead. And his commitment to Demek, I guess that would be direct democratic values, right? That aligns with their vote for people who are dementia-ridden, book people who are brain dead, or brain damage, and vote for actual dead people. The state of Pennsylvania, that sums up the state of the election in the United States. That's where we are. We are worse than some third world country that there are at least 7 states are like Pennsylvania. My gosh, you guys have some backward voting ways that you guys go about doing stuff on there. Florida, my home state where I'm at, we were done counting by like 11 p.m. And we're like the 3rd largest state in the union. So just take that as well. You guys really got to clean up that system in Pennsylvania there. That should be your guys' main focus. If you're not leaving Pennsylvania, when you want to turn Pennsylvania red again, you have to start in the election area. You guys start with the security of the elections, you got to work in those areas. That's the only way you're going to be able to clean up a lot of stuff, and maybe you don't end up having a dead politician on the ballot, who ended up winning an election in Pennsylvania. And then, this is some big news, our nation is in a political paralysis. Yesterday's midterm elections, to even the shock of Democrat pundits and pollsters, was characterized overwhelmingly by the re-election of incumbents, and that's on both sides. Republican governors from Ron DeSantis in Florida to Brian Kemp in Georgia, Greg Abbott in Texas, Kevin Stent in Oklahoma, Mike DeWine in Ohio, they all won re-election in blowouts. But then, of course, so did the Democrat gubernatorial candidates, though not necessarily in blowouts. Most of their margins were comparatively thin, but governors in Maine, New York, Minnesota, New Mexico, Colorado, Michigan, California, they all won re-election. As we've been analyzing now, for weeks, all the signs, all the indicators pointed completely in the opposite direction. Democrat pollsters, like Doug Schoen, were sounding the alarm. Whether we were talking presidential approval ratings, right track, wrong track polls, generic ballot party affiliation, it all literally looked like a perfect anti-incumbent. But that storm which appeared to be brewing in the Pacific with the first election of a Republican delegate from Guam, and 30 years in which looked like it touched shore in Florida, even flipping Miami-Dade red. That storm ended up completely dissipating as the night went on. It dissipated so much that we're basically in the same political mess now that we were in just a couple of days ago. If you're in a red state yesterday, you most likely woke up to an even redder state today. And if you were in a blue state yesterday, well, you most likely woke up to an even bluer state today. What happened yesterday, in defiance of all the indicators leading up to it, was far from being a red wave. It seemed rather like a massive reinforcement. Blue got bluer, red got redder. The tsunami ended up a stalemate. We are in a very real political paralysis. Needless to say, control of both the House and the Senate continues to hang in the balance as of the making of this video. We're still counting votes. That's right. Our de facto third world election system is still counting votes, and there are estimates that votes will continue to be counted for days on end. But no matter what the results in the end, nothing changes the fact that we are a deeply divided country. One very astute observer put it this way: I guess the big takeaway is libs want this crime, inflation, runaway homelessness, drug addiction replacement migration? We all sort of assumed they would recoil at the brink. But no, they were like, yeah, this is what we voted for. We are a deeply divided nation, we're becoming more and more divided with every passing election. And that, I believe, is unfortunately where this is all heading. Now, in the meantime, a very clear narrative is starting to emerge here on the right. And that, of course, is the shining star of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Already Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, they all appear to be in full court press to make DeSantis the 2024 nominee. I think that's highly premature, to say the least at this point, but the very fact that you're going to be hearing so much buzz and chatter surrounding DeSantis, his presidential prospects, is clear evidence of what an amazing night he had and what an amazing job he's done. As governor of Florida, he did the unthinkable. He took on Florida's establishment, which we have to remember is very rhino. Remember, Florida is much like Pennsylvania, which is now, as it seems, as blue as Florida is red. But Florida was governed by neocon establishment rhino. Charlie Crist was the Republican governor, for heaven's sakes. Jeb Bush, I mean, they were rhino central, and in 2018 DeSantis won by less than a percentage point, beating that Democrat crackhead, and has since transformed Florida into a solid red ultra mega state. He has effectively crushed the rhino establishment there, and that is for right if we're wrong. Again, it's all gonna work itself out, but that is propelling him straight to one of the top contenders for 2024. He was clearly the star last night, while old rest of the Democratic incumbents were either barely holding on, at the very least saw their margins of victory significantly depleted. Whatever it was, DeSantis went in the complete opposite direction. His less than 1% victory in 2018 transformed into a near 20-point blowout in 2022. That is the stuff, gang, that is very impressive there. And there was more good news as well. In the midst of all this disappointment, North Carolina, which has long been considered a swing state of battle, ground state continued to get even deeper rest. Yesterday, it wasn't just Ted Budd winning the open Senate seat. It was North Carolina's Supreme Court, which has been notoriously liberal for ages. Conservatives didn't just finally take it over. They won a supermajority on the court. So they flipped the court there. They have supermajorities in their state legislatures. So North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, with J.D. Vance, Iowa, these are all now officially red states. They're as red gets at this point. Forget the battleground nonsense you'll hear with those states. They're not Democrat in any major way for the foreseeable future. It's just not going to be happening. And we did flip several school boards across the country yesterday as well, which is, of course, good news. But other than that, what are we looking at here? I do think we're seeing a kind of national balkanization happening. And this is something we've been talking about a lot on this channel on a number of occasions, because it is reflective of a major dynamic going on all over the world today. And that's the dynamic of political and cultural balkanization in its formal sense. It's known as neo-secessionism or neo-tribalism. That's the term used by Misha Mufasali. And this is a phenomenon where the modern world and its meta-narratives that have held nations together, they basically implode. And so populations reorganize more and more around basic regional, religious and often racial identities, which often translate into calls eventually for political secession. We're seeing this all over the world today. But the precondition for political secession is this sense of political and cultural balkanization. And poll after poll after poll shows that secessionist sentiments are stronger now than they have ever been since the mid-19th century here in the United States. That is what I fear from this political stagnation, this political paralysis, this stalemate. That's where I fear it may be taking us now. There's more to be said here, because this puts the whole notion of building a parallel polis, a parallel economy front and center for patriots going forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Of course, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course possibly subscribe if you're up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching